Today, I have an absolute stone cold beauty to share with you. This is the Panomatic Reserve. This is a watch that I have wanted to see in person for years. I've seen multiple of the Panomatic Lunar, but I've never seen a Reserve in person. And I've got to say, it's so good. It is so satisfying and beautiful. And there's some pretty big differences between this and a Panomatic Lunar, even though from across the room they almost look identical. There are some significant differences that I'd like to highlight in today's video. So thank you to Exquisite Timepieces for lending in this reserve for me to present, and also lending in multiple Panomatic Lunar and CQ and other Glashutte original watches over the years. Exquisite is an awesome family-owned AD in Florida. They have a large geo collection, so if you're shopping this German-made brand, definitely check out Exquisite. A link is below. Now, let's talk about these differences, and I'm going to talk about what each one does better than the other one. Essentially, we have the same watch, the same 40mm case, we have the same crystal, we have the same strap options and bracelet options, but one watch has a power reserve indicator and one watch has a moon phase complication. And admittedly, I think the moon phase looks a little bit better just in terms of filling the asymmetrical space of the dial. This is a very dial heavy design, and that light color that's found within the moon phase complication, how it's set up there, kind of in between the 2 and the 3 o'clock position, I just think it fills the space better and it looks a bit better aesthetically speaking. Also, a moon phase complication, it's a bit more sophisticated compared to a power reserve indicator. You have to keep track of something with the 29.5-day cycle, as opposed to just showing how much tension is found within the mainspring. So the moon phase is more sophisticated. It's a little bit better looking. And I own a couple different moon phase complications, and in just full transparency, I never use them. It's just fun to look at when you gauge the time on your wrist. I never need to know the phase of the moon, but when I compare this complication to a power reserve indicator, that is far more practical in my eyes. So I have to give the nod here in aesthetics to the moon phase, but the nod in practicality has to go to the reserve for being easier to use on a daily basis, more helpful in day-to-day situations. Now, the reserve is a full 1 mm thinner than the Panomatic Lunar, and I think that makes a big difference. This reserve is 11.7 millimeters tall versus 12.7 millimeters in the Lunar. They both have the same 40mm case diameter, and so when you're wearing the different watches, you notice that millimeter difference. And with the design that is so dial dominant, the lower you go in total height, the more refined it feels. At 12.7 in the Lunar, that's approaching 13. That's almost like having a dive watch or a chronograph on your wrist, and it just looks a little odd with such a dial dominant design. So I think this is probably the biggest point between the two in the favor of the reserve, is that thinner profile. And that might be the deciding factor if you're cross-shopping both watches. Now, one of the reasons why the reserve is thinner is because it's a hand-wind movement. It's not an automatic like the Panomatic Lunar is. And I want to be perfectly clear here. Both of these movements are so beautiful. They're so well done. But I think the reserve is not as visually striking as the automatic that's found in the Panomatic Lunar. The automatic has a 3/4 rotor that is asymmetrically set within the caliber, so it fills the real estate of the movement. It mimics the asymmetrical dial layout, and I just think it's one of the most gorgeous movements that I have seen in almost every watch I've looked at, and watches that cost far more than this one does. And this is no joke. Both of these watches retail at $12,000, so they're not affordable watches. And I think the beauty is found here in the Panomatic Lunar movement. Now, the reserve is gorgeous, but a lot of that visible space is just a striped 3/4 plate. It's not as exciting to look at, even though it's still beautiful. Both calibers have hand-engraved balance bridges. Both calibers have dual swan neck regulators. Both calibers have polished beveled edges and blued screws, heat blued screws. The hand finish movement, I think in either one is a significant driving reason to buy a Glashutte original Pano. Both of these watches, I think, when it comes to the movement, they are true works of mechanical art, even at $12,000. Now, the Panomatic Lunar has a gold rotor weight attached to the end portion of the rotor. The Reserve has screw-mounted gold chatons, but in terms of gold amount, the Panomatic Lunar has more gold content, and that might be a small difference that's important to you as a consumer. But as far as the strap options go, the retail price, the crystal clarity, the water resistance, or the power reserve value, the warranty, the box quality, all of the different aspects of both watches, they're going to be the same. These are very similar, but those differences are significant. And I'll close by summarizing the best aspects about each watch and declaring a winner between the two. Now, the Panomatic Lunar, it has a more full-looking dial. It has the more beautiful layout for the movement. It has more gold content in the movement. And so I think it wins in terms of aesthetics. But because the moon phase complication is present, I also think it has a bit more buffer from just being a straight-up Lange 1 homage. The Lange 1 is comprised of the same complications that you find in the Reserve. So I think that could be another difference that's important to some watch collectors. This Panomatic Lunar is slightly less derivative in terms of design. Now, the Reserve, despite not being as balanced visually or as beautiful with the movement layout as the Lunar, it's significantly thinner. And I think it has a more practical complication with that power reserve indicator. So, just bringing some perspective to this, it's still beautiful. It's still balanced. It's just a little less so compared to the Lunar. So I think that weighs a little less than the thin profile and the day-to-day practicality of the Ab and Auf designations on the dial. So the winner for me, it's the Reserve. I think this is the one that I would buy if I were putting my own money down. I love both. I really do. But I think the Reserve is just a touch nicer when it comes to the wearing experience and the user experience. So let me know what you think. Tell me if I'm off base. Let me know if you have any questions. If you're shopping Glashutte Original, definitely check out Exquisite Timepieces, and I'll see you in the next video.